I'm Caroline Hyde. This is the best of Bloomberg Technology, where we bring you all our top interviews from this week in tech. And this week we were live from Boston, showcasing the innovation, diversity and power of the regional tech economy. We were live from various locations in Boston throughout the week, and we will bring you all the highlights in our next hour. Coming up, the governor of Massachusetts, Charlie Baker, on the incentives to lure Amazon to the Bay State to set up its second headquarters. Plus, how does Amazon's Alexa hold its own as competition heats up? We'll hear from Amazon Alexa SVP, Tom Taylor. And investor and Celtics co-owner Steve Paliuca joins the show. We'll get his input on Bain Capital's portfolio and the current NBA season. Now, on Tuesday, we came to you live from the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce's annual meeting at the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center. Bloomberg's Boston Bureau Chief Tom Maroney joined us on set as we spoke with Governor of Massachusetts, Charlie Baker. That was on Bloomberg Television and on Bloomberg Bay State Radio 106.1 FM. Take a listen.
Well, I certainly think Amazon's going to have a presence here one way or another. They already have several thousand employees here. They're adding several thousand more in a building that's going to go up right down the street from here. And I certainly think they appreciate what we bring to the table, which is a wonderful collection of tech talent clusters, terrific environment generally, a great place to raise families, and we have terrific public schools and great communities, and I fully expect we'll be in the hunt.
I want to follow up on that. When you were elected, we had that awful winter, 2015-16. We all still remember it.
Some of us will never forget it.
That's true, including me and you. You had pledged at the time that you were going to fix public transit, the MBTA. I take the commuter rail into Boston every day. I have delays. There are mechanical problems. I know there have been some improvements, but if we get Amazon, are we going to be ready?
Well, actually today I was over inspecting some new Orange Line cars that will be starting to land at the end of this year, and then will land continuously along with new Red Line cars for the next several years. And we're talking about 50% increases in both the Orange Line and the Red Line. And about 2 weeks ago, we spec'd out a proposal to increase capacity on the Green Line by another 50% over the course of the next decade. And we're also making investments all the time in the commuter rail. I happen to think that these investments are good ones. All in, we're talking billions of dollars in infrastructure around public transportation. But we also have a Futures Commission that's taking a look at what the next act over the next 10, 20, 30 years is going to look like in transportation. And I have a feeling that's going to have some elements in it around the electrification of transportation, autonomous vehicles, and all the rest that will probably also change the game. But I believe we'll be well suited to deal with whatever comes with respect to employment and growth.
I want to ask you about your regulatory outlook for the likes of Airbnb. I mean, we're building technology here, but sometimes the regulatory environment isn't always as welcoming as giants like Airbnb would wish. You've been pushing this, Marty Walsh has been pushing it as well. What do you foresee in terms of that business and how it can function in Boston?
Well, I'm sort of use the Uber and Lyft example as a precursor. We came up with what I think was the right framework for Uber and Lyft to be able to operate here, or any other transportation networking company, 2 years ago. And last year in 2017, there were 65 million transportation networking rides in Massachusetts, which is obviously a gigantic increase over previous periods. And on the Airbnb piece, my view is kind of the same, which is what we ought to do is try and come up with a regulatory model that for those people who are simply using it once in a while as a platform to support a summer house in the Cape or something like that, fine, by all means be my guest. But if you're going to be renting that room out or that apartment out 150 nights a year, as far as I'm concerned, you're in the hotel business, and you ought to pay the same tax that a hotel operator pays.
Well, Caroline, we know in Boston that the mayor's had a bit of a tussle with Airbnb. He's just come out with a new ordinance, proposed ordinance, that says we are not going to tolerate these multiple unit owners, so-called stealth hotels. Do you support what the mayor's doing in Boston? Will we see this across Massachusetts? If you own many units, you're not going to go through Airbnb in this state?
I think what's going on in Boston is a reflection of what I would describe as hotelier behavior on the part of people who are buying and renting these units. And I have sympathy for that. What I think we ought to be able to do is solve this problem statewide, come up with a formula that works for everybody. But if you're going to be in the hotel business, you should pay hotel taxes just like everybody else. And a lot of those folks, for all intents and purposes, are in the hotel business.
Let's stick with the regulatory theme here, because there's been a change to the regulatory environment. So that yesterday we understand the Supreme Court will be allowing betting on sports. What's the reaction of Massachusetts? Is this going to be a state that might adopt that?
I think we need to think. Look, I think we should take it seriously. We had a leadership meeting with the legislature yesterday where we started talking about this. We're obviously going to talk to Major League Football, baseball, hockey, basketball, and all the rest, and get their sense about this thing. We'll probably talk to the big platforms like DraftKings, which is located here in the Commonwealth, and we'll also talk to the folks who are in the casino business and get their sense about this. But it's hard for me to see how we could ignore this and choose not to pursue it.
Are we going to see a commission established for this? Who's going to police all this? You thought that out yet?
I think that depends a lot on the nature, on what type of industry we end up supporting from a statutory point of view. Depending upon where we land, you'd use one model or another. But I certainly think it's something that's going to be on the radar and people are going to take seriously.
I mean, speaking with
people will be in the position where they'll literally be betting on games while they're going on. And the whole notion of what's going to be possible under this is dramatically different than having sports books in Vegas, period. I mean, this is a much more significant expansion.
It seems to me, Governor, that it's a lot like the marijuana business. It's new, it's unexplored territory. We have a cannabis commission. They're talking about cannabis cafes, all kinds of things, but it's slow going. Do you see that sort of process evolving with betting, sports betting?
Maybe. I mean, I'm of the opinion that slow going on the cannabis law, as the Cannabis Commission is pursuing it, is the right way to go. Because there's still a lot of unanswered questions about how you police it, regulate it, and oversee it. And I think we'll have some of the same kinds of questions with respect to sports betting. But that said, it's certainly something we have to take seriously and engage in a pretty aggressive way with our colleagues in the legislature and with the folks who would be involved in the industry if it were developed here.
How are you engaging in terms of infrastructure projects, particularly gas pipeline projects? This is something that you yourself has got involved in. We've seen a few projects axed. Why? Is there a concern? Are we going to see more gas pipelines being built within Massachusetts and helping with the energy costs?
Well, a lot of that gets decided by the federal government, not so much by the states. I mean, the two big projects we have that are directly related to us right now is a big hydro project coming down from Canada and an offshore, deep water offshore wind project. Those are both over 1,000 megawatts. They're the two largest clean energy procurements in the state's history. And those are ones that we control through state statutes and are working with our colleagues in other states to pursue and to implement.
That was Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker along with Bloomberg's Tom Maroney. Now, 3D printing is still in its infancy, but it could disrupt the $12 trillion global manufacturing industry. HP, 3D Systems, and smaller startups are quietly revolutionizing the technology for mass production of medical devices, consumer products, and auto manufacturing. Bloomberg's Ann Mostew visited Massachusetts-based startup Desktop Metal that prints products in stainless steel and other metals, and recently brought on Ford Motor as a strategic investor.
Desktop Metal is making 3D metal printers in two sizes.
This is the DM Studio system. It's the first machine that lets you print metal parts in an office. Literally, you roll this in, fits through any door, plug it in.
And there's a larger one for mass production.
It starts around $500,000 and it goes up to several million depending on the configuration.
CEO Rick Fulop explains it's the same inkjet technology that other 3D printing machines use. but faster and cheaper than welding or melting metal with lasers.
In the laser system, this part would be $80. This part is $4 with our process.
The goal is to make 3D printing scalable on the production line for various industries.
This technology can be applied for everything from stainless steel to titanium. It's very suitable to automotive, it's suitable to heavy duty, it's suitable to making valves, it's suitable to airplane parts, high-end consumer electronics, to many, many applications for this type of technology.
3D printing has long been a novel technology in search of a huge market. And according to Wohlers Associates, production applications for 3D printing could eventually grab at least 5% of the worldwide manufacturing economy and translate into $640 billion in annual sales. Other companies are taking notice. HP and 3D Systems are making the shift.
It's been around for 20, 25 years, and the reality is that to date, it was all prototyping. So the bulk of it was prototyping, and for the first time, the next 20 years is going to be about end-use part production.
Desktop Metal counts BMW and Caterpillar as customers. The company has raised $277 million with backing from GE Ventures, Lowe's, BMW, Alphabet's venture arm GV, and most recently, Ford.
Clearly, automotive is a great market for our technology, and probably will be the largest market for this type of technology.
Desktop Metal employs 150 people, mostly engineers. Along with R&D, this latest funding round will go toward increasing that staff and reach, with plans to extend to more markets, including Europe and Asia. Ann Mostu, Bloomberg, Boston.
Still ahead, Amazon Alexa continues to dominate among AI assistants. We'll hear from Amazon Alexa exec Tom Taylor next. And if you like Bloomberg News, check us out on the radio. You can listen on the Bloomberg Radio app, Bloomberg.com, and in the US on Sirius XM. This is Bloomberg. Now, back to our special coverage from the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce's annual meeting at the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center. We next turn to the rise of the digital assistants in our everyday lives. The latest breakthrough in the technological space has amazed and scared some people. When Google's new program called Duplex called to make a restaurant reservation, it fooled the human on the other end of the line. Duplex spoke and sounded just like you or I might, complete with hums, ums, and pauses. And now people are calling for AI assistants to identify themselves. Well, there's one computer voice familiar to millions. It's Amazon's Alexa. And in a year when, according to eMarketer, 61 million Americans are using a voice-enabled speaker, Amazon is eating up that market share. Currently, 67% of those people using Amazon's Echo, which comes with, you guessed it, Alexa. We spoke with someone intimately familiar with Amazon's AI voice. It's Tom Taylor, Senior Vice President for Amazon's Alexa.
Certainly a very interesting demo, much to be inspired by. I think it shows how important it is to always start with your customer and really think about how to work backwards from a customer. This is something that I believe Amazon has always done from our very early days in our retail roots.
Therefore, you do have dominant market share, about 2/3. How are you keeping up with the innovation to ensure that you remain that strong and ahead of the competition?
Yeah, I think there's lots of things. We're very excited by the success we've had and the reaction customers have had with Alexa. I think there's many things that we'll be doing over the next year and many years. Just rattling them off. First of all, we believe very much in there'll be many AIs that win. We don't think there's going to be one. And in fact, we would encourage that. As an example, we recently demoed Alexa talking with Cortana, and we expect there'll be many more, whether they're big AIs or if Bloomberg were to have one.
Would you work with Google, for example?
Of course. I think that would be an interesting. It's the same interaction you'd expect to be able to talk to as many friends and experts that you know. Two is we want to be able to make the ability for developers and builders to create their own AI. That's very important, and we've done this through tens of thousands of developers and tens of thousands of skills that they can build, even down to recently we released a product called Blueprints, which allowed you or I to make a very simple skill that people are doing at a local level. And finally, we believe in what we might call ambient computing, which is you should be able to hear and talk to your technology anywhere. That's the whole power I think people have seen machine with voice is I am not tethered to my keyboard or to my phone. At any time I can speak. So I think you'll see Alexa being successful in the home. We hope to see it at work, in the car, on the go, and everywhere.
Exactly that. At the moment, we are dominant in terms of requesting music. It also is pretty important for asking it questions. But where do you want to see it being picked up, making inroads sooner rather than later? Where do you think is the low-hanging fruit?
Sure. I think as we listen to customers, they're saying, this is great in my home, but if I want to listen to music, I'd sort of like that to go along with me when I go to the gym or when I get in my car. I think there's many other use cases as well of the skills that you provide. Think about all the assistants, how Alexa might be able to save you time, save your own mental thinking. And so we'll continue to explore all those different directions.
We're sat here in Boston. You have a significant talent pool here, helping building out Alexa. I mean, where are you getting the talent from? Is the competition getting much more fierce for them, considering, as you say, there are a lot of frenemies out there, whether they be Google or indeed Cortana?
Yeah. Well, certainly, as you know, and we all know, Boston has been an incredible tech hub. We've been here for many years. We have over 1,200 employees that are scientists, engineers, machine learning experts, linguists. So it's fascinating for us to have the ability to attract talent from universities and industry. And we've recently announced that we're opening new buildings here, and we'll be hiring thousands more employees over the coming years. So Boston's a great tech hub for us.
When you're looking at building out these tech hubs, when you're looking at building out the power of voice-enabled assistants, what about the issue of concerns of you and I have about listening? How have you tackled that in terms of engagement, user engagement, public relations?
Sure. It's a great question. I think every consumer should be concerned about privacy. I think Amazon's done a great job starting with that customer, working backwards. So just taking the example of listening, people often, it's incorrect that Alexa's always listening. She's specifically waiting to hear this word, Alexa. And until then, that's only happening on the device. It's not going to the cloud. And so that's one of many protections. We have a mute button. We have the ability to control what records Alexa has. We don't sell your data. Alexa does not sell your data. So there's many things that we feel makes us very aligned with a customer, and that's what builds trust over the long term. Easily lost, hard won.
That was Tom Taylor, Senior Vice President for Amazon Alexa. Now, when it comes to e-commerce, the first name that pops up is usually Amazon. But in the realm of online-only furniture sales, Wayfair is the largest in the US, and they're using augmented reality to enhance that experience. Bloomberg's Ann Mostu reports.
It's virtual reality for retail.
There you go.
There we go. The grill goes on the patio.
In its quest to be the largest online home furnishings store, Wayfair is going high-tech.
We have about 10 million products on our site, and we are trying to rapidly build a catalog of 3D models that lets us offer a huge selection of models for people, for our customers, to visualize in their homes.
Through Oculus Rift or on a smartphone using the Wayfair app, shoppers can scan a room or outdoor living area, select a piece of furniture, and see what it would look like in the space, exactly to scale.
Here are 4 patio chairs and a table, and I'm trying to move them to decide where I want to put them.
Steve Conine is co-founder and co-chairman of Wayfair. As this Boston company's business has grown, so too has the size of its engineering team, along with the complexity of the software features it's building.
We are currently in the Wayfair Next lab space in the Wayfair offices. Wayfair Next is a team that we put together that has been really trying to help innovate on augmented virtual reality solutions.
The company's undoubtedly innovating the $116 billion home furnishings industry, and its progress is exciting investors. But questions remain about its long-term viability. Wayfair isn't turning a profit, and e-commerce competition is heating up as Amazon and Walmart ramp up their home goods categories. But Wayfair hopes its focus on presentation will pay off.
If we can give you a tool that makes it better to shop while you're in your home, that's helpful for us on a bottom line. It helps keep customers, excited about using our platform, excited about shopping for furniture and home decor on the internet.
Conine says the more description and imagery to help customers make purchases, the fewer returns Wayfair will see. And that's leading to more repeat customers.
Look at that. Wow.
Ann Mostu, Bloomberg, Boston, Massachusetts.
Still ahead, Boston-based defense contractor Raytheon is a global leader in technology-driven solutions for the critical defense and non-defense needs. We'll catch up with CEO Tom Kennedy next. This is Bloomberg. Now, back to our special coverage this week on Bloomberg Technology from Boston. Defense contractor Raytheon is a global leader in technology-driven solutions, providing integrated mission systems for critical defense and non-defense needs. We caught up with Raytheon CEO Tom Kennedy while in Boston and asked him about the firm's decision to remain in the city.
Numerous universities. You have MIT, you have Harvard, you have Boston University, you have University of Massachusetts, you have Tufts, a whole set of universities that provide folks with the technical skills required to, number one, work in industry and business, but also help to develop the next generation systems and solutions that will be able to compete in the global marketplace.
What are the next generation of systems and solutions? What things are you seeing being built here at the moment?
The whole area of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and how you apply them to your product solutions is a whole new wave of capability that we are looking at significantly and putting those type of products into our solutions that we provide customers.
3D printing, is that a key focus?
3D printing is really, it's additive, we call it additive manufacturing, which opens up a whole new door for companies, and it really, relative to their supply chain, do they build those products in their company, or do they have them done outside? So it's a whole new dilemma in terms of figuring that out. But additive manufacturing is just going to change the way we do manufacturing in the future. And there's also, I think, one of the things that's changed here in terms of technology is for years we thought we were on a linear curve in terms of technology. One of the aspects was called Moore's Law. Exactly. So every 18 months you double your processing speed. In today's world, we're actually really on an exponential curve. And we're right at the knee of that curve right now. And some of the technologies, and you mentioned one, which is additive manufacturing, but we also have machine learning, artificial intelligence. We have something called nanotechnology. And all these technologies are coming together at about the same time that are really going to change the way we live and the way we work. Yeah. And the way we do business in the world in the future.
You as a business leader, how do you ensure that you're ahead of the curve, ahead of the competition, ahead of the startups that are also being
Well, we hire the best people we can, and those best people are in Boston. And we hire them from the best universities there are, and those best universities are in Boston.
What about the talent diversity and the pool of talent? You have so much focus on the fact that it's, yes, you need the best talent, but you need to ensure that it's the right sort of working environment as well. Women, ethnic minorities, how are you focused on that at Raytheon?
Well, we found that to get the best product development, it helps to have diversity of thought and having a diverse team putting those products and solutions together, because our customers are diverse. Right? So to be able to provide the right solutions to them, it helps to have a diverse team developing those solutions. The issue that we are facing, and it's not just Raytheon, it's all technology companies, is facing us, how do you get a diverse workforce in today's environment when there are not a lot of women that are coming out of the universities with science and technology and engineering degrees. And so that's an area where where companies are working to try to drive that solution and to fix that solution.
How are you helping drive it?
Well, personally, we are heavily involved in science, technology, and engineering and math activities. For example, one program we've just started up is with the Girl Scouts of America, and working with them on STEM initiatives and actually a STEM badge, so that if they do certain projects, they wind up with a STEM badge for the Girl Scouts.
That was Raytheon CEO Tom Kennedy. Coming up, Steve Paliuka, Bain Capital co-chairman and co-owner of the Boston Celtics, joins us for an extended conversation. His take on this week's Supreme Court ruling on single-game gambling. And a reminder that all episodes of Bloomberg Technology are now live streaming on Twitter. Check us out. It's @Technology, weekdays, 5 p.m. in New York, 2 p.m. in San Francisco. This is Bloomberg. Welcome back to the best of Bloomberg Technology. I'm Caroline Hyde. And this week we are showcasing the innovation, diversity and power of Boston's tech economy. And of course, this week the US Supreme Court struck down a federal law that had barred single game gambling in most of the country, giving states leeway to legalize gambling on individual sporting events. The decision will no doubt have a huge impact on professional leagues in the US. And we spoke with Steve Paliuka, Bain Capital co-chair and the co-owner of Boston Celtics, about just this, as he joined us from his home turf and Boston's Institute of Contemporary Art.
Well, my understanding is the ruling is actually focused on states' rights more than anything else. So we'll see how that plays out. They have gambling all over the rest of the nations, and as you know, in the UK, soccer gambling. So I think it'll play out as a states' rights ruling.
Something that Massachusetts should approach? That's
up to the state. You know, the Attorney General is great here, and I'm sure they'll figure out what the best way to handle it is.
Interestingly, we've already been hearing from the NBA Commissioner, Adam Silver. We know that he's been a relative supporter, but saying overall we've got to ensure that the legitimacy of the sport is remains intact. But do you think that it would affect the game in any way?
I think with Adam Silver as commissioner, the game has always had a high integrity with David Stern, and Adam Silver is their highest priority, and it will remain so whether anything changes in gambling or not. People want to see a fair game, and they do an incredible job at putting that on. Would you like to see the NBA take a cut of the gambling? You know, again, that's up to Adam Silver and the group. We're really focused on trying to win a championship with the Boston Celtics, and we're really enjoying what's going on right now.
Let's talk about that. Yesterday, the win. It's all I heard as I got the train down from New York was the focus on phenomenal performance against the Cavaliers. I mean, what does this mean for you for the rest of the season?
Well, it's only one game, but we're very proud of the team. Obviously, when you have two of the top players go out with injuries, many teams fold. Brad Stevens and the team pulled together, and a young team really has stepped up. It's a fantastic kind of Cinderella story. So I love watching it every night, and they're competing very hard. They're playing as a team, and it's wonderful to watch.
What does it mean for your brand, for the franchise?
Well, the franchise has been very strong before we purchased it. It's an iconic franchise. It's really more, we feel like we're stewarding the asset for Boston and Massachusetts and all of New England. And this story makes it even stronger. You know, young players coming in, looking at those 17 banners up there, one of which was on our watch, really inspires them. We have a fantastic coach, a fantastic general manager, Wick Grosbeck, you know, I think the best CEO in sports, and co-owner. So things are looking really good right now. We knock on wood or glass and are hoping for the best every night. LeBron is, you know, transcendent player, and you can never count LeBron out. This was one game, but it was off to a great start.
Let's talk about stewarding assets closer to home. Let's talk about the investment side of your focus, and particularly when it comes to cyber, chips, software. You're in it when it's at Bain Capital. Where are you seeing the most value at the moment? Because we do see price points at a very lofty level across any industry group right now.
Absolutely. I think any industry group price points are high, and they're especially high in tech. So we've done over 150 tech deals through bad cycles, good cycles. We've done chip deals. And the key is really focusing on where we can transform a company and really fundamentally change its trajectory. That can outweigh the ups and downs of pricing, and that can allow you to buy companies in these kind of frothy markets. So, for example, buying two companies at once and putting them together and getting synergy. Trying to grow a company through multiple acquisitions, trying to grow a company through going exporting rather than just selling domestically. So we try to be very disciplined in these markets, and so far that's been successful. Our funds have done well. But I would say our word right now is to be disciplined and kind of stick to our knitting, to use our folks. And we were really founded as a group that can help management teams develop strategies and grow companies. And we're just going back to those roots even stronger in each vertical market that we have.
How does the environment affect you in terms of, you know, at the moment we're all talking about data, about privacy, about the way in which maybe companies monetize that. How does that affect the way that you then look at assets, and particularly in the internet and software space?
Well, it's certainly an issue with any internet company that collects data. And if you take one step back, almost every business is a tech business now. Yeah. The technology in this period, I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years, and this period has kind of revolutionized, or at least evolutionized, every business that we're looking at. We actually spent an entire day with our global partner group meeting with the Gartner Group to discuss technology trends and how they affect industrial, how they affect banking, how they affect technology companies, how they affect consumer companies, and the game has changed. So every investment you do, you need to factor that in. In terms of the privacy issue, that's an important point as well. I think the companies are responding in a good way to kind of ring fence that in. The positive of having data is, for example, I like getting customized ads for the things that I like.
Yeah.
So if you can do that in a responsible way, which I think companies are trying to do right now, and work with the government to do that, I think that'll be good for everybody.
Let's talk about the government and how that also affects the way in which you invest. I mean, there's assets that you've looked at in China in particular. When you have these sorts of geopolitical risks or trade skirmishes, how does that affect your willingness to do business in a country like China, for example?
Well, we've been very successful in Asia and China in general, and we think the long-term view is it's a great developing market. We think China is coming towards the world economies and not going against it. They are implementing more rules that are favorable for investment, and so we're hopeful that the ongoing discussions will result in even a better climate. But you certainly have to weigh that in, and you have to pick your spots on where you think you can be successful and not successful. So we have a great on-the-field team in China who understands all that, and we've been successful because of that.
The spots that you can be successful. Where are the spots that you can be successful right now when you're sat here in Boston, when you're looking at opportunities? Where's exciting you?
Well, in Boston in general, about 40% of the people in Boston are involved somehow in innovation. We've been very fortunate that we're at the hub of innovation. You see things going on at Harvard, building an engineering school. Companies here, we have a company, VM Turbo, that's really growing very rapidly through our venture fund. So we're looking at all things of how the internet affects companies, how you can add value there. So certainly technology is a hot and growing area from a venture perspective and from a buyout perspective. But what you have to factor in is what do you have to pay for these companies? So I could tell you hot spots here and hot spots there, but if you're paying too much, you're not going to make a return. So we again try to take that disciplined approach where we find a company that can be transformative, really reduce costs for a company, give them better marketing materials, whatever, and then we invest in those companies to build them and grow them to kind of be immune to the valuation issues right now.
How difficult when you have such juggernauts come into the space, particularly in venture, for example, Softbank's Vision Fund, $100 billion to put to work. Do you feel that they're disciplined themselves? Are they what's driving the frothiness, or is it something else?
Well, I think in general the economies of the world are doing well. We've come out of the crisis in 2008. The banks are totally stabilized in the United States. Every restaurant you go in is full. Every plane you go on is full, as you know, traveling around. So we're in a pretty good situation on the face of it economically globally. So Softbank is an issue. It's really not for us. Our venture funds are smaller. They can be more selective. Softbank is trying to make very large bets on companies that are going to try to gain share globally. So it doesn't affect us as much per se. What really affects us is, in general, there's a lot of money, chasing deals. And so I come back to our theme song, which we'll say over and over again, is to be disciplined and to stick to do what we know, which we've been doing for 30 years, finding companies that can grow, take share, and become larger.
Do you look at the economies as they grow? Do you think interest rates changing, could that affect the frothiness? Could we start to see assets pulling back in terms of valuation?
I think we will see a pullback if interest rates go up dramatically. I don't foresee interest rates. No one can predict interest rates, but if you look at the situations in most of the world economies and governments, there's a lot of debt out there in the governments themselves. So, for example, our national debt is $20 trillion now. I think when I came out of business school, it was $1 trillion. If interest rates went back to the levels of 5.5%, that's $1 trillion onto the deficit. So I don't think many governments can afford to have high interest rates. So I would see a prudent approach would be raising them very slowly, and hopefully that'll mitigate a large pullback. But when they go up, inevitably, valuations go down.
Interestingly, you've just launched a real estate team, I understand. How's that affected by interest rates going up slowly or indeed dramatically? What's the focus there?
It's really the same issue. Real estates are more stable assets. We've had a great team come over to Bain Capital from Harvard, who's been a top performer for the last 10 years. It worked out great for both sides. We're very excited about that team. And again, they're going to be selective. They stick to specific niches that they know about. So, for example, funding biotech office space. doctor office space, things that have demand and will last the test of time and maybe withstand some of these interest rate increases.
Excited about teams at Bain and excited about certainly teams called Celtic. It's wonderful to have you here.
Been very fortunate. I don't think we've had ever had a better team at Bain, and certainly this Celtics team is just working magic every night, and hopefully the magic will continue.
That was Steve Pagliuca, Bain Capital co-chair and co-owner of the Boston Celtics. Meanwhile, Reebok is using 3D technology to break the mold. Bloomberg's Anne Mustew visited the Boston-based company's headquarters to see how it's using proprietary liquid material, software, and robotics to draw shoes in three-dimensional layers.
The footwear industry is seeing a jumpstart in technology. Nike's HyperAdapt made self-lacing shoes a reality. Adidas's Futurecraft introduced 3D printing with comfort. And now Reebok's Liquid Factory is making intricate, lightweight designs along with the company's 100% recyclable footwear line, Cotton and Corn.
This is our 3D printing lab.
Bill McGinnis is head of Reebok Future.
Liquid Factory is a way to get away from using molds like every other shoe in the market does and draw the bottom of the shoe instead. So this is like 3D printing, only much, much faster.
It's an effort to streamline production and keep up with younger consumers.
The big goal is to go from, we're going to make 1 million pairs of one shoe in the exact same type and hope everybody likes it, and that was kind of the old model. And now we're moving to smaller and smaller batches, 10,000 instead of 100,000. And as you get tighter and tighter, you can get closer and closer to custom.
And how is that a benefit to Reebok? What are the benefits of new manufacturing?
So you can get a lot faster, so you can react much more quickly to consumers.
Reebok isn't alone. Parent company Adidas and rivals Nike and Under Armour have also moved into the 3D printed sneaker game. But Reebok's Liquid Factory material is proprietary. The process uses computer software and robotics to draw shoes in 3 dimensions.
We're actually faster than the old model right now. So each bottom unit takes a couple minutes to put together, and again, it's all automated.
Adidas bought Reebok in 2006 for $3.8 billion, and in 2010 began a turnaround to reposition it as a fitness brand by signing a partnership with CrossFit. But Reebok today is the one unit that remains unprofitable. Still, Adidas says it's committed to the future of Reebok and moved its headquarters from the Boston suburbs to downtown this year.
The spirit of the company has changed dramatically. I mean, we were always a very established shoe brand. Moving down here, being in the excitement of this district, I think has the whole place feeling like a startup.
It does feel like a startup, breathing new life into its classic white leather sneaker. Anne Mustew, Bloomberg, Boston.
Coming up, Boston has become a standout city for test driving self-driving cars. And we got an inside peek at Optimist Ride's indoor track. That story ahead. This is Bloomberg. Now to our next stop on our tour of Boston tech, Optimist Ride and its indoor self-driving track. In the race for autonomous vehicles, Boston is one of a handful of US cities leading the charge to test self-driving cars. In 2017, the city launched a testing program of autonomous cars on public roads within the Seaport district. That's where Lyft's first self-driving car pilot kicked off last December, and startup Optimist Ride recently relocated its headquarters. Bloomberg's Anne Mustew got an inside look at the indoor track here at Optimist Ride.
This self-driving vehicle startup is on a roll. The company is Optimist Ride, a play on the Transformers robots. And it's located in Boston's Seaport. Its small fleet of test vehicles is navigating an indoor city.
This is our test track, our indoor test track. We call it Optimist City because it's the size of several city blocks. We're able to reconfigure the track by changing the lane markers. We can configure this to any type of intersection that we want. You know, five-way complicated Boston intersection, a typical four-way intersection with stop signs.
CEO and co-founder Ryan Chin says Optimist Ride is different from other startups in that they're not focused on long distance, but on the last mile of transportation. Right now, they're testing at Union Point, a nearby housing development, driving residents to the local train station. This is different from companies such as Uber, which are testing autonomous driving for longer trips. The recent pedestrian death in Arizona shut down testing in Boston, but just for a day. Optimist Ride restarted after safety reviews.
There is a goal of educating the public. Whenever you have a new technology, you have to educate the public. We believe if you start in a, I would say, medium speed environment, a vehicle that's going 20, 30 miles per hour, it's much better than going to a high speed vehicle that's autonomous as well. So adoption has to start at those kind of speed regimes.
This MIT spin-off has about 60 employees, and Chin expects to grow to 150 by mid-2019. They plan to expand their fleet of electric vehicles to 50 by the end of this year.
We also expect the growth to be non-linear, especially around engineering, specifically in the areas of robotics, computer vision, machine intelligence.
With more than $23 million from investors, Optimist Ride is searching for more partners.
We have many partners already, and we're actually adding more partners as we go. Right? So one of the big partners that we have is NVIDIA. NVIDIA is an investor in our company as well as a partner. They make the top GPUs for self-driving, so they're a great partner for us. They build all the computers that go into our vehicles to process all that information. We have other partnerships with the Perkins School for the Blind here in Watertown, Massachusetts. They're a big advocacy group for equitable mobility.
Optimist Ride plans to remain private. The biggest challenge will be competition with the giants in the race to release self-driving cars. Not just manufacturers like Volkswagen and Hyundai, but also Google. Ann Mostu, Bloomberg, Boston.
That was Ryan Chin, CEO of Optimist Ride. Coming up, we head to the next stop in our Boston tech tour, Fenway Park. Sports tech with Red Sox president Sam Kennedy. That's next. This is Bloomberg.
This is news, but not as you know it. This is TikTok by Bloomberg, the first and only global news network built for Twitter. Objective reporting that you can trust. Curated comments that provide insight. TikTok by Bloomberg. 24/7 news streaming live on Twitter.
Welcome back to a special edition of the Best of Bloomberg Technology and our week-long coverage from Boston. On Thursday, we broadcast from none other than Fenway Park, the home of the Red Sox. And we kicked things off with Red Sox president Sam Kennedy. Take a listen.
We've got lots of young fans coming through our gates, and we need to make sure they're connected at all times. So whether it's enhanced Wi-Fi or a distributed antenna system so people can be connected on their social media accounts, it's something that we focus on. The fan experience, when people come here, they need to be connected to each other, not just at the ballpark, but to their friends around the world. And it's a really important thing for us. Major League Baseball has spent a lot of money on upgrading the technology around its 30 ballparks and interacting with fans through their websites and social channels. So it's really a priority for us as we look to grow the game and as we move into the future.
How do you ensure it is a priority to you when, look, you get sellout games anyway? Do you really need to innovate? How do you keep on pushing yourself?
We do. We never want to take for granted that people are just going to keep coming through the gates of Fenway. We have 3 million people that come year in and year out, not just for baseball, but for concerts and for other events, whether it's international soccer games or college football or even outdoor ice hockey in the winter. So we try to do new and different things to make sure people are coming to Fenway throughout the year, and we're lucky to have such a loyal fan base.
It's been a weird off-season. We saw a lot of free agents going unsigned until the last minute. Is that changing the way that people are willing to spend money on players? Does it make it a better place for you when you've got deep pockets?
It'll be interesting to see. It was a very slow-moving off-season around the league. Perhaps the Red Sox were the exception. We invested heavily in free agency and re-signing some of our existing players. So we have one of the highest payrolls, if not the highest payroll in the game. So we continue, John Henry, Tom Warner, continue to invest. And we'll see. It may have been a moment in time in terms of the market conditions being a little bit different, who was available, what teams were looking to get under the competitive balance tax threshold. We'll see how next offseason develops, and you'll look back in 3 or 4 years and see if it was a blip on the radar or a trend as we move forward. That's yet to be determined.
How do you ensure that the franchise keeps on reaping in enough money to be able to do the investing in the players and making sure that you're splashing the most cash?
Yeah, well, you have to be focused on the fan experience, making sure Red Sox fans, who are the smartest fans in baseball, are getting a great experience when they come here. And they want to have fun, they want to enjoy good competitive baseball, but they also want to enjoy the other amenities throughout the ballpark, whether that's kids getting involved with our virtual reality activities or augmented reality through our baseball card collection.
So it's tech heavy here.
It is tech heavy, but you also have to balance that with a reminder that sometimes people want to come to a ballpark to get away from electronic devices and screens. So we need to cater to both audiences. But we need to recognize that if we're going to grow the game, we have to be investing in technology, because the next generation is a tech-savvy generation. They're on their mobile devices 7, 8, 9 hours a day, and we have to recognize that, and we need to be there.
What might make people on their mobile devices even more is if they can bet on sports. Now, I come from a country in the UK where we do bet on sports, and it looks as though your Supreme Court might allow it to occur here in the United States. How will that change the game, do you think?
Well, we'll see what happens. Major League Baseball has been very proactive in working with the state officials to see how it's going to work. Supreme Court has said that the states can now decide whether to legalize sports betting. So Major League Baseball has been working with the individual states and the legislators to see how this is all going to play out. Most important for us, we think it's a good thing because there will be regulation of sports betting. We know it's happening. There's a massive amount of illegal activity taking place. So if the government can regulate that activity, that is a good thing. It gives safety, make sure the integrity of the game is preserved. And then we'll see what the other benefits may be, whether there's more fan engagement, more interest in the sports. That has happened around the world, especially you mentioned international football. So I think that will occur, but it's a little bit early to see, as the Supreme Court just ruled earlier this week. But we see it as a positive development, and we're watching it very closely as an individual club.
How will you protect the players?
Well, the players, they need to be subject to the rules that all of us in baseball will be subject to, which exist. You cannot bet on baseball if you're involved with the sport. That's obvious, and I think through greater regulation and monitoring of gambling activity, that will be aided and expanded. So Major League Baseball is all over it. They're working closely with Adam Silver at the NBA, Jay Monahan at the PGA Tour, to make sure that all the sports governing bodies are linked and aligned in this as we enter this brave new world.
Should you take a cut? Should the sports get a cut?
I think it's appropriate for the sport to have some type of integrity fee. There will be a lot of expenses incurred by the individual sports to monitor the activity. Certainly the intellectual property, the investment that the industry makes, whether it's $9-10 billion being invested to put that content out there. I think it is appropriate, but that's obviously up to the government to decide.
That was Red Sox President Sam Kennedy. And that does it for this special edition of The Best of Bloomberg Technology and our full coverage from Boston. We'll bring you all the latest in tech throughout the week. Be sure to tune in next week when we head to Paris for full coverage of President Macron's meeting with global tech leaders. Remember, all episodes of Bloomberg Technology are now live streaming on Twitter. Check us out at Technology Weekdays. That's all for now. This is Bloomberg.